Managing stress in your business and personal life. Does it ever feel like you can never get ahead of your problems? That the minute you solve one thing, the next problem rolls along? Or do you feel like you can never complete all those tasks on your to-do list because they keep piling up? What if I said there was a way that you could manage all of that and reduce your stress levels to manageable levels? Well, there is. And in this video, I will share a simple technique with you that will help you take control of your stress levels in your work life, your business life, and your personal life. The constant flow of problems. Every day, new problems arise in our life, and we are confronted with many things that are outside of our control or at the very best demand our attention. These problems can range from problems in our business to sudden home maintenance issues, and it can feel like we're never on top of them because they seem to just keep piling up outside our door. Mitigating problems versus removing problems. There are essentially two approaches we can use when dealing with problems. Let's quickly consider removing problems first. Removal implies completely eliminating problems, therefore creating an environment free of problems, and this is what we naturally strive for. This approach is impossible, as problems are inherent to life and business, and their complete eradication is never going to happen. It is a fool's errand to try to conform the universe to fit our ego's desires. But this is how we naturally approach problem solving. And all it does is create stress because it's unrealistic and doesn't actually work. Mitigation, however, involves managing problems in a way that reduces their impact or severity. This strategy acknowledges the presence of the issue and the continual likelihood of similar issues, but seeks to lessen its effect or prevent it from escalating by taking control of how and when we interact with it. Mitigating problems, therefore, offers a more realistic and pragmatic approach, focusing on control and management rather than complete elimination. And mitigation is the key process we will focus on as we explain the system that we're going to use. And this simple system is called time boxing. Now, much of the advice out there in internet land is focused on creating utopia by trying to control every tiny detail in our lives, especially those things external to us. And we do this because we think that is going to reduce stress. So in other words, think about it. We have to take control of the universe to reduce stress. But that's not very useful in real life, where real things happen and the universe doesn't seem to want to pay that much attention to our desires and wants. And this is something important to consider. The internet isn't real. The internet is an interpretation of reality. People's opinions of what reality should or shouldn't look like form the majority of what we see on the internet. So that's why we have to test everything. And that includes you even watching this video. So instead of yearning for a utopian, problem-free life that is impossible to attain because we're not in charge of the universe, we need to focus on taking control of how we handle the constant stream of problems that we have in life that life inherently throws at us. Time boxing. Imagine in your mind that you have a series of boxes in a room, and inside each of these boxes, you have specific groups or categories of tasks or problems that you need to deal with. You see, task completion is essentially problem solving. So we can use those ideas interchangeably, and I will do that in the video as we go along. Now, what you do is you take each box, you've created this picture in your mind, and you label that box with a permanent marker detailing what is inside those boxes, and then you close all the lids of the boxes. You should now have a room full of orderly closed lid boxes in your mind. Now, we're going to use that image of the boxes to manage when we interact with each set of problems and tasks that we need to solve or complete. The next step then is to start making some rules about when we interact with those boxes. We will set specific times for each box, and that time is the only time that we open those boxes in that room to think about them and process them. When we are not dealing with them, we picture the boxes as closed. When we are dealing with them, we picture the boxes as open. That mental image is what you need to hold on to as we discuss time boxing. It is creating this image in your mind that is the key to the whole process. Visualizing this process in your mind's eye is the secret to success with this technique. So time boxing essentially is a process that involves assigning a specific time slot or boxes to specific areas of our life. This enables us to take control of our time and also helps us to manage our emotional state by preventing us from becoming too overwhelmed by dealing with too many things at once. Implementing time boxing is a foundational step towards fostering mental discipline, good mental and emotional health. But why does it work? The reason this works is because this method puts our intellect in charge of managing our life and managing the flow of problems that we experience on a daily basis. And our heart, which is another way of saying it, is a very bad stress management tool, as it typically has two responses, fight or flight. So let's have a look at fight. This means we will use the emotional fight mechanism. Whenever we have a problem, we want to fight it. And how that tends to manifest, and to know if you're doing that, is you will observe these things happening. You'll end up overthinking. You'll end up in obsessive behavior, and you'll end up over-focusing on one box to the exclusion of all other boxes in your life. This is typical of people who overwork or who become too career-focused. They obsess about one thing and they get really good at one thing, but all of life's other problems are not put in boxes, and now you have a very messy room with one tidy box inside it. The other way we tend to respond when we try to handle our emotional issues and our problems with our emotional state is we tend to operate on the flight mechanism, which is where we try to avoid facing our problems. We hide from them, and that then leads to a sense of underachievement in our life, which then leads to a lack of confidence because problems just keep piling up in our life and we never learn to deal with them. You can see this when someone hates working in a job but will never do anything productive to solve the situation. With no right to complain about stacking shelves at Tesco's if we are any older than 20 years old, as we can all develop ourselves beyond shelf stacking, but we might be hiding in that job because we're frightened to go to another interview, or we're frightened to leave the job and take a risk and expand ourselves, or maybe we can't be bothered to train and develop ourselves. Now, I don't think that's going to be true of anybody watching this video because you're actually trying to educate yourself right now, but I hope you get the point. But then we come to mitigation. When we start using the intellect, we can switch to managing or mitigating the problems that we deal with in life. Only the intellect can engage in mitigation, in problem and task management. Because it's an intellectual activity, it is intentional. This means we are fully self-aware about this process and we're in control of the process. So typically, when confronted with a difficult situation, we have a very strong emotional response to it, and we follow that response and do what it says, and that's what creates the feeling of stress that we feel. Now, time boxing negates this response by cutting out the emotional responses and removing them as a problem-solving tool and placing the intellect in charge instead. If we remove negative emotional responses to problems and replace them with intellectual processes, we significantly reduce the stress associated with them, if not completely remove that stress. So we have to define and understand stress. Stress isn't generated by the presence of problems themselves. Stress is generated by our uncontrolled reaction to them. This is why some people can seem to cope with stresses that make a lot of other people fold and experience serious emotional issues. They have learned to process problems. You will see this manifested in the military with soldiers. If you give an untrained civilian a weapon, and I'm untrained and I'd probably respond this way, and tell them to walk towards a fight, they will either refuse or probably be dead in 10 minutes. But a soldier is trained to walk towards that fight. but they're trained to do it in the safest and most efficient way possible, reducing risk to the maximum amount that they can. And they do that because they're trained into habits they use to help them manage the stress of those situations. Essentially, time boxing, therefore, enables us to put our intellect in charge of stress management. Another hidden benefit is that by assigning repetitive tasks to time boxes, we get the mundane out of the way. We get the boring out of the way as quickly and efficiently as possible. Boring tasks are better handled in small, bite-sized portions. So let's have a look at time boxing in business operations as an example. Consider the stress of running a business. There are always lots of tasks that need attention in business. So marketing is one area. So let's have a look at that as an example. Between social media posts, content creation, outreach campaigns, social media marketing or online marketing can really pile up the work we need to do. So without a structured approach, we can easily feel ourselves become overwhelmed. We're trying to juggle all these different tasks haphazardly. And when that happens, I see that businesses end up completely neglecting their marketing, and it's usually because of this. This is where time boxing comes into play. We can create a time box solely dedicated to marketing tasks. So what I do as an example is I spend about 30 minutes a day on my socials, as I call them, answering posts, sharing content, engaging with followers, and building connections online. During this period, I focus solely on my marketing tasks, free from the distraction of any other business concerns. By doing this every day, I ensure that my marketing tasks are effectively managed every day, but this also prevents them from encroaching on the time dedicated to other aspects of my business. See, it's easy to spend lots of time surfing on social media, filling our minds with rubbish, and this one little method of time boxing saves me from getting distracted. It saves me from doing that. So that means that every day I spend that time on my socials and then typically don't even look at it again until the next day. And you will be amazed how productive that makes online marketing. So that's just one example of a benefit of time boxing in our business. We also do the same with our accounts. My wife spends 30 minutes a day checking the accounts, and that means that when the accounts or the VAT return is due, it comes around, she can get it done in a day, maximum 2 days. But when we did not do that, when we did not reconcile daily, she would end up spending 1 or 2 weeks, typically 2 weeks, reconciling the accounts because she couldn't remember all the details about the transactions. Doing it daily while it is fresh in your mind makes managing the accounts and budgeting simple. It also means that with time boxing, we are now in control of our cash flow and we're in control of our budgets as they are being checked every day. This means we can quickly respond when we notice financial issues or problems. And this is an important point. Time boxing stops a lot of surprises from getting too big before they are noticed. You want to pull weeds up when you first see them in your garden. You don't want to wait months because by that time, the roots have really taken hold and it becomes a major task to get those weeds out of the garden. I also then do some business management on my training business, and that takes me about 20 minutes a day. So there are some tasks we do every working day, but what about tasks we have to complete every week? We box all of that as well. So for example, our video production time for our businesses is boxed as we generate a lot of video content across various different projects. So on Mondays, we typically film our Amazon Associate videos together. Tuesdays and Wednesdays then, I typically film my YouTube video and edit it. Thursday, I will create my shorts for sharing on all the social platforms. And at the moment, 6 shorts takes about an hour to create. And I then also prepare my YouTube script for the next week. Friday then is a mop-up day, and then we clock out for the weekend. So there are some simple examples of time boxing in business and how they can benefit you. They increase productivity, efficiency, and they reduce stress. Now, if you think of any problems that might arise in your business or your work life, you can place them in time boxes. You can create those boxes and then you only deal with them when you open that time box every day or every week, whichever is appropriate. So you have to set those boxes up and you have to decide when you're going to open them. But let's have a look at the power of emotional time boxing. This is probably one of the most powerful aspects of time boxing when it comes to our emotional and mental health. Emotionally, we're often buffeted by a variety of competing emotions, both negative and positive. It's crucial to understand that it's natural to experience such a mix of emotions. Most people don't realize that it is okay to feel happy about one thing, and it's okay to feel sad about another thing in the very same day. You see, people will often feel guilty when something sad happens, and yet they still have a positive experience in the same day, which makes them feel good. They feel like they are emotionally imbalanced when actually the opposite is true. You can have a tragedy in your life in one emotional box that you are processing, and at the same time, a joyful response to something else in another emotional box that you are also processing. You could be mourning the recent loss of a loved one and at the same time experience the blessing of a newborn child in your family. And it's okay to have both experiences. We don't have to be constantly mourning in life, and we don't have to be constantly celebrating in life. Life brings both experiences, and both are what they are. What matters is how we manage them and recognizing that we have different boxes we can open and close for different emotional responses to different events in our lives, and we can even do that in the same day. Each morning, I spend at least 30 minutes personal time processing my emotional and mental state and thinking about life in general. For me, that's a spiritual time. But if that's not something you personally engage in, then still consider having a time for processing your emotional state every day, your emotional responses to life's events. Let's say you assign the first 30 minutes after waking up as your reflection time box. During this time, you disengage from your tasks and responsibilities and focus on your own mental and emotional health. This is a time where you can analyze and process what your emotions are telling you, what is causing you to worry and to stress, and a lot of people will use journaling as a process for this. I personally just tend to meditate on things and think about things and have that quiet time. Both methods can work, and I'm sure there's other methods as well. Often those emotions that we're confronted with in the morning can be particularly overwhelming because it seems like the emotions are quick to wake up in the morning, but the intellect can be very slow to wake up. I don't know if you've noticed that, but your emotions are there ready and waiting as soon as you stir, and then the intellect can sometimes take hours to wake up, it seems. Negative, damaging emotions often rise up as soon as we wake up, so taking the time to put the intellect in charge is key to the successful management of the whole day. This time box is used so that we can analyze those emotional messages, critique them, and place them under the rule of the intellect. This process itself helps to prepare us for the day. We want our intellect in charge before we start the day, and by boxing our negative emotional responses into a time box every day, we give ourselves time to process any negativity trying to creep into our lives, as well as reflect on any positivity we are experiencing. So if there's something that doesn't need dealing with right now, and it's the middle of a day and it's coming to you, you know that you have that time in the morning where you say to yourself, okay, we're going to analyze that and have a look at it in the morning. I'm not going to think about it now. I'm going to concentrate on this time box. Now we don't have them bleeding into the rest of the day and affecting other things we're trying to get done. Next time you're feeling negative, make a note for yourself to address that in your next emotional time box session. And don't let it distract you from the task at hand, the box you're currently focused on. You see, there are two common mistakes people make with emotional management. Number one, the dumping method. This is where we dump our emotions out in front of everyone and get a short cathartic release. The problem with that, well, there's a couple of problems with that we need to discuss is, first, this isn't pleasant for everyone around us, and they will often withdraw from us because we are very negative all the time, telling everyone about our problems and pointing at all the problems in life. We call this walking on the path of the afflicted. People don't like to be around that People don't like to be around people like that. See, everyone knows life can be tough, and they don't necessarily want to be reminded of that all the time. They have enough of their own problems to deal with. So that's one way we tend to try and deal with emotion in a bad way. And that becomes very habitual as well. Secondly, we're not actually dealing with the problems. We are just developing a habit because we feel a little bit better because we've just talked about our feelings. And then there's the avoidance method. This is the inverse of that almost. This is common with men. They don't want to talk about their emotions at all. So some people over talk about their emotions and some people don't want to talk about it at all. But all this does is lock the emotional charge up inside and creates long-term emotional problems because nothing is getting processed. The emotions are not being processed. And this leads us to the real point. We have to process our emotions to take control of them. Dumping or avoiding is not doing that. What we should be doing instead is analyzing them with our intellect and processing them or filing them properly once we've dealt with them. Now, I have a full video on how to take control of your emotional state if you need help getting control of your emotions and placing them back under the control of the intellect. And check out our YouTube video on smart thinking. This will teach you a simple yet powerful intellectual process that you can use every day to take control of your emotional health. Now, if you're finding this video useful and you want to take a deeper dive into all aspects of entrepreneurship, including emotional well-being as an entrepreneur, then check out this special offer. You can access my Business Buddies training community, which has 58 hours of condensed premium training. That includes 6 best-selling masterclass courses that help you build your own business fast, and you will also have access to my own personal support in my private community. My courses have been taken by 300,000 plus students from all corners of the world, so these are tried and tested and extremely popular premium courses. And you can save over 50% on the normal price right now using the coupon link below. So by using this link, you will get the best deal because you're buying direct from us and saves you money. So let's have a look at boxing time for the home, family and friends. You see, this time boxing strategy isn't limited to business and emotional management. It can extend to personal tasks and home chores as well as family time. So let's consider a common situation. The endless list of DIY tasks at home. This is a very good example. In particular, pay attention, men. Instead of tackling those tasks randomly or postponing them until they pile up, you can apply the time boxing principle here as well. So what I do is I assign a specific time box for these tasks. I keep an hour or two aside for every Sunday for the small DIY tasks time box. During this time, I focus solely on completing these tasks, thus preventing them from disrupting my routine during the week when I'm working. This also stops that list of tasks becoming overwhelmingly large over time. It also protects me from my wife, who can be very enthusiastic about DIY when she wants something fixing, and I mean very enthusiastic. When we take this approach with all the duties around the house, we box our time for all of our tasks at home. Every job in our home is assigned to someone and it is performed on a set day at a set time as much as is humanly possible. This reduces friction in the home because everyone knows what their responsibilities and tasks are. Stress in the home often comes when there is a task that is not assigned to someone and everyone thinks everyone else should be doing it. Time boxes assigned to specific people solves this. Now, obviously, you need to come together as a family and divvy up the tasks and agree it together and negotiate what you do want to do and what you don't want to do. If you do that, you're going to find that's going to help you reduce stress and friction in the home. Time boxing also helps us take control of our social and leisure time, as these need assigning as well, if we want to have some balance in our lives. Believe it or not, even as entrepreneurs need social and leisure time, contrary to what you might hear in internet land. The hustle culture is a toxic culture, in my opinion. Just saying. I don't think any of us will get to the end of our lives and say, I wish I had more time at work, or more time fixing the gutters, or more time hoovering the house, or more time making another $1 million that I don't need and I will probably never spend. Friends, family, good food, and a quiet life is the key to a happy life. But to have that, you have to make sure to create boxes for that time specifically, otherwise it never happens. You will find that you can turn down the volume of the stresses in your life if you also take some time out for yourself. Put that in a box every week. Everyone needs personal time to themselves. We need time for family, but we need time to ourselves away from people. In conclusion, the concept of time boxing offers a powerful approach to managing the many challenges that life and business throw at us. It not only provides structure and focus, but it also aids in maintaining emotional balance and reducing stress. We have to remember those problems, tasks, and emotional messages are going to keep flowing, they're going to keep coming. You just have to decide when you're going to deal with them and when you're going to manage and mitigate them. Now, obviously, there's times in life when something comes and you have to deal with it instantly. It's an emergency, and we're not necessarily dealing with that, but by managing and mitigating everything else, we can then maybe move things away, knowing what that's going to affect as we deal with the emergency. And that will reduce your stress levels. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Also drop a comment below with your thoughts about any of this, whether you agree or disagree. Love to hear from you. Now, if you're new to starting a business, then one of the things you're going to need is marketing training. I have a completely free course on online marketing and sales for beginners that has over 40,000 students already enrolled and has a 4.5-star average rating. This comes with an exam and certification, which you can access on my website, and I'll put a link to that in the description. I also run a Business Buddies training community, which I've already mentioned, and I'll put that on the same link as the free course. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this useful, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next video.